It is another episode of Good Sugar. I am Ralph Sutton. As always, with me, it is Marcus Antebe. If you're new to the Good Sugar podcast, or the GSP, as I'm trying to make that a thing now, who am I? I've been in radio and broadcasting for about 20-something years. Had a show on over 100 stations in radio, and now own a pretty popular podcast network. Marcus Antebe, fitness savant. Fitness. He started a small little company.
Idiot savant.
He's into vegan. He's a vegan man for many, many years. Knows his stuff when it comes to health and wellness, I guess is the right term these days.
Do you feel that really? Do you really like?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. The last couple of weeks have shown me that you really do know your stuff. Evident by the fact that Dr. Lee and Don Saladino, they gravitated towards you because it was very obvious that you knew what you were talking about, and I certainly did not.
I had a few tricks up my sleeve.
Yeah, they both said that they were.
You know what my trick up my sleeve is? I just keep like 3 computers that I can Google at all times.
I was on a podcast yesterday, and they were asking about how they're talking about how insignificant vice presidents are. And I said, I don't know, a lot of vice presidents either were somewhat significant or went on to become president. And they said, well, you're not going to remember a vice president if I tell you. And as soon as they said that, I opened up my Google on my computer while something like, I said, I'm going to probably know if it's, not that long ago. And they said JFK. Do you know?
The vice president for JFK? Yeah, of course.
All right, who?
It was the guy who took over from when he was executed.
No. Lyndon B. Johnson.
Oh, Johnson, right. I'm just saying, it wasn't quickly in my mind. Now I could tell you a little bit about Johnson. I mean, he was a good guy. He had great domestic policies, but wasn't so good with his foreign policies. He did a lot for civil rights.
I could tell you a lot about Johnson's.
And he also said when he was probably a shoe-in for a second term, but he decided to not run.
Right. Yeah, I think so. So really quickly, an update on my running. I would say this, Marcus. I'm almost at a point where I'm now looking forward to the run. It took 6 months of me going and literally every time while I'm jogging, thinking to myself, I need to go home. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I've had a pretty strict routine where I get up, and not that I need to be graphic, but it's for a reason. I usually get up, poop immediately, then do my morning routine. I have that Greens little powder with water and a little apple cider vinegar. I take my pills. I clean up the house a little bit, get all suited up, and usually and a shot of coffee. And by then, I need to take poop number 2, and then I go out. And I think to me that tells me that my digestive system is running pretty well if I take 2 poos before I even leave the house. I think it's a good sign, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
When we first started this show, weren't you having a little bit of a hard time with going to evacuating?
No, I always would have that, to be honest with you. That's the one thing I've always had. But what happened
that was my other co-host on my other podcast. Sorry.
Yeah. Or they're just you thinking about me as someone who has back.
I don't really think about you that much in the bathroom.
Thank God. So just yesterday, I'm doing my run, and I woke up late, and I knew I had somewhere to be at 9. So if I didn't leave immediately, I wasn't going to be able to get the run in, and I don't want to miss a day. So I only did poop number 1. And at about a mile and a half in, it became very evident that I need to turn around and go home. So I only did 2.5 miles. I came straight home to take poop number 2. I don't know what that is, if it's psychosomatic or what, but I have to take 2 poops every morning. I have to.
Well, listen, everything that you described in your morning routine, what I came to really grasp and understand during COVID, those are the routines that we have that somehow keep our mind flowing in a very organized manner. It prevents us from feeling like we're falling off the edge of the earth. The positive is if they're good routines, then they're really promoting your health and your wellness and your overall sense of well-being. If we have bad habits, well, there you go. So I think it sounds like what COVID was for you was an opportunity for you to really reinforce a lot of new habits. And I would say to you is that if the running becomes something that you lose interest in, the lesson is really the same thing. You start off with a tiny bit of doing a new routine, and you just let time go and you just work your way into it. So if you had to, let's say, for example, as you got older, if running started to hurt your knees, you'd say, okay, you know what? Now I'm ready. I know what this feels like. I'm going to do this with yoga.
Right.
And then you just start.
Something. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's great. And I think it shows me that anything, like you've said this many times, you start with small increments, which when I started running, it was 1 minute at a time, and then a walk, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk at a time. And now I run for almost an hour straight at times, which is pretty amazing to me that I can do that.
You know, in the book that we just finished, which is pretty lengthy, you know, we do make a big deal about one of the secrets of recovery or self-help is that you break bigger, more daunting tasks down into smaller tasks, as small as they have to be in order for you to feel that you can actually accomplish them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think about this all the time, is that I remember early on in my 12-step recovery, one of the steps in 12-step recovery was to use prayer and meditation, right? And the meditation part was always very elusive because I just didn't have good teachers. I didn't know how to find them, and my comprehension was very minimal on the subject. It seemed as though meditation was a subject that you approached and it had to be for a long duration. Like in my mind, like you did it for 45 minutes, an hour. The amount of boredom that I felt and the lack of positive results and the inability to actually just do something in there, not knowing what I was doing, that 45 minutes, it's just the most boring 45 minutes of your life. I actually had a breakthrough a couple of years ago when I just said, you know what? All I need to do is sit down for 1 minute.
Right. I mean, that's what it's funny you should say that, because I've said that often in, not with things like meditation, but I talk about that to my staff when it comes to like building a project or doing something for the computer that needs to be done for a show, is just pick the thing you can get done the fastest. That'll make you feel like you're moving forward. You know what I mean? Like things are going forward. You make a list of I do this every day. I got this from my dad when I was a kid. I write a to-do list out every day.
Holy smokes. That's why you're a successful guy. That's a big one.
But I rewrite it in the order of things that I know I can accomplish.
Wow.
Right. And then that way I feel like I'm knocking things off the list.
And it's a routine. And I think when you think about in business, or, you know, the things that I think about where you get stuck, business, athletics, self-help, this kind of stuff, you know, making these lists are great. Why people procrastinate is probably one of 3 or 4 reasons, right? Fear of change, obstinance. You know, they could have just being very stubborn. And the one that I really felt really applies to myself is I generally hesitate on doing something if I don't know how to get it done. And I'm not aware that I'm hesitating for that reason. I have to stop and go, why am I not doing this thing? And then I think about it and I go, oh, I don't really know how to do this. Mm-hmm. So then what I have to do is write a list of possible things on how to achieve that thing. I'm experiencing that a lot in the projects that I'm working on right now. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, the entire business model of Gas Digital, my network, was built on me not knowing how to
screaming at people.
Yeah, me not knowing how to do anything, and just watching, you know, the school of Google and YouTube, and figuring it out a little bit at a time. And I would pick one task at a time that I felt I could tackle and figure it out. I didn't know how to do any of this shit when we started, and I figured it all out.
Another thing, if I may say on top of this, is that what I learned is that it's interesting how each night when we go to sleep, it's kind of like a hard reset. The worst time for me to assemble a list is in the morning, because I'm already get up and go. I'm already driven by whatever I'm driven for, you know, whether it's anxiety or excitement, enthusiasm. I have to prepare my workday the night in advance.
I actually, you know, it's funny that the last thing I do in a day is reorganize my to-do list. And I tell you, it's really effective. I mean, listen, everybody's different. Everyone has a different mindset. Some people that I've spoken to said, you know, by the end of the day, I'm so burnt out and I've done so much already, I can't even concentrate on doing a task list. I like to get up really early morning. I do my routine, I work out, and then I can sit down with a cup of coffee and I can write out what I have to do. It's really different for everyone. I just feel like you have to find the pattern that works for you. And this is not just chit chat between two guys on a podcast. This is really the essence of being successful in everything that you're doing. Right. By the way, before we bring on our guest, last week we had Dan Saladino on. Don Saladino, sorry. And is it Dan or Don?
Yeah, you say his name wrong all the time. It's Don Saladino.
Saladino. Sorry, Don. And you have updated our challenge from a 2-day water fast to a 3-day water.
Did you guys agree?
I don't know. I'm going to watch this. Someone told me to watch this thing about water fasts. So I'm going to watch that first, and then I'll let you know. But we've been back, just so the listeners know, we've been back and forth via email about doing this water fast in about 2 weeks or so, where I imagine we'll do it a Friday to a Sunday if we are doing it, right? I mean, that seems the most logical.
Well, it seems like the right time to start the water fast is always in the evening before you're going to bed, because you get a free 8 hours right there.
Right. By the way, I know Brian, our producer, has to do it for surgery. He has a surgery coming up. I don't know how many hours he has to do it. Brian, how many hours you have to water fast?
Probably 24.
24
hours of just water. Yeah. I mean, I think if you start
minimal water.
Yeah, just a minimal. Yeah, you have to have like no water, right? They do that a lot. I know that that's a mistake with surgery. If you have too much water, you can't take the surgery. You can't do the surgery. But I'm hoping that I can do it. I don't know. Joey's been, my brother Joey did this thing where, and he did it for the wrong reasons, by the way. He's doing it to lose weight, where he does a water fast, and then he introduces coconut water and watermelon juice, and then he introduces smoothies like juice, cold pressed juices and stuff, and then vegetables and fruit, and then back to his regular diet. When he does that, he loses like 8 or 9 pounds in the week. But then most of it comes back because you're losing water weight. You're not losing.
It's not that it's hard to tell if he's losing water weight, because I know that if I do a diet like that, I'm losing, maybe 1 or 2 pounds of water weight, and then my body just starts to chew into muscle too. It's not just water weight. You can actually lose muscle mass even before fat, because the body knows that fat is a great reserve type of fuel. The body might burn that off last.
Yeah, but also you have a very different body composition than my brother. You might be 6% body fat, and he might be
it applies to all of us. It's the body's last resort is to get rid of fat. You have to kind of make it feel like it's safe to do that. So it's really about the duration. If you give yourself more time to do the type of cleansing that he's doing, which is really all he's doing is a reductionist diet. He's getting rid of all dietary mistakes, and he's allowing the body to do what it's designed to do. So, you need more duration if you really want to lose true weight. And then when you go back into your diet, if you are sedentary and you're taking in too many calories of the wrong type of calories, of course you're going to put the weight back on.
Let me ask you this question. For any listeners that might want to follow along with us, what should be my diet the 2 days before we do this? Should it be all fruits and vegetables?
I think that preparation for this is not an athletic event, and you don't want to really go through any extremes. So the way that I would do it is I would tell you for 5 days, be totally plant-based.
Mm-hmm. But like plant-based, healthy plant-based, not like,
No, of course. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that anyone do anything that's unhealthy. I'm just saying you should be totally plant-based, less concentrated food, less grains, things that are hard to digest, that require more energy, things that you might end up craving in the first 48 hours of a water fast. You're going to crave the things that quite frankly, that are slightly toxic to the body. I see this often with women who are pregnant that I meet at Juice Press. They crave the things that they might have done a long time ago that's still within their cell wall. So out of nowhere, when they're pregnant, the body wants to make itself into the Garden of Eden. It wants to get rid of all of that stuff. And suddenly, when you're putting certain things back into your bloodstream, you're going to crave that very bizarre thing. Like, why am I craving ice cream? I haven't eaten that in 6 months or a year. Some people can't tolerate the craving, and so they just say, hey, I'm pregnant or whatever. I'm going through this thing, and they just succumb to it.
I tried saying that once. It didn't work.
Yeah. Rather than saying, you know what, I'm just going to let myself go through this, and I'm still going to eat clean. It's never the right choice, in my opinion, to listen to a craving for something that's toxic for your health. It's just not. I'm sorry what anyone has to say about that.
What are your thoughts? Because I've been looking into this lately, the alternative grains like kamut or farro or those kind of like less popular ancient grains, as they call them.
Oh, come on, man. They're magnificent. Look,
I love them. I love the way
I'm going to say it like this. when you're doing a diet, you got to really do it when you're trying to go. Let's say you've decided that you wanted to be 100% raw and vegan, the hardest diet in the world, perfectly healthy. It's the zenith of all diets, right? But it's not for everyone, because you have to have a specific mindset. Your entire chemistry is going to change, and once you get to a certain point, you really can't fall backwards. You can make yourself very ill if you do 100% raw, clean, vegan diet, no coffee, no dietary mistakes. You can't jump back into the standard Western diet 3 years later.
Right, I get you.
So the stuff that you're doing right now, you can't be paranoid about plant-based foods that aren't fried. You're eating them in moderation.
Sometimes I worry that we have. Oh, hello, Jen. Really quick. Sometimes I worry that some of these ancient grains might be too hard to digest, or those are the least of your problems. If you are including some cooked food like that, and it's hearty and it makes you feel full, and it's raising your body's ambient temperature in the winter times to help you stay warm, that's what you're used to. As your consciousness with food becomes cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, you'll probably start to crave those things less, or you might eat those things and not feel as active. Maybe you'll feel some pain. You'll start to become more sensitive. Every rare once in a while, I have a desire for some rice. So I'll cook some wild rice, black rice. I'll eat it with some olive oil. I feel a lot of relief. I do it 2 times in the summer. The second time I'm doing it, suddenly I feel like I'm 68 years old just from having some rice. It just changes my body chemistry. But for me, it's worth it, because I'm not trying to be 100% raw vegan yet. I'm vegan 100%, but I'm not trying to be raw yet. Okay, so now we're going to bring on our guest who looks like she's sitting in a Game of Thrones type chair. I don't know what is going on.
Actually, it's 2 treadmills.
I would have, it's funny. Based on the perspective, I would have never guessed that in a million years.
What is it?
It's 2 treadmills facing each other.
Because
it looks like a really funky bed.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, it's actually, this is my podcast studio, and we typically do the podcast. It's Habits and Hustle on woodway treadmills behind me, and we face each other. But now with everything happening, we'll be doing it on Zoom. So this is why my Zoom is set up in my studio. But for people who don't understand, that's why it looks like this.
Wait, so on Habits and Hustle, which is your podcast, I've not watched it, but do you face each other and you're on a treadmill while you're doing it?
Yeah, we're basically facing each other, and we talk. I do my interview for usually about an hour or so with my guest while we're moving. It's better, obvious. A couple things. Number one, as you know, my background is fitness, so I don't like to typically sit and be sedentary for long periods of time if I don't have to be. And so I figure, why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Your brain works much better when you're actually moving. It's better for your cognitive ability, for your focus, for your creativity, for your alertness. So why not combine what I speak about with the fitness and health element, and voila, there you have it.
I wonder if there are other podcasts that do that movement while you're doing the podcast. It's interesting.
I'm very unique, so I don't know. No, I'm joking. I hope not. It's my thing. I'm sure there are some, but not that I know of.
I imagine it limits who you could be on the show with, because a lot of people are like, well, fuck that. I'm not going to be doing it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think a lot of people get like a little nervous when they first hear about it, right? I think I probably have lost out to a few people because of it, but the good news is it's not like we're sprinting. It's not like we're trying to, we're not racing. It's basically, we move pretty slow. You'll maybe break a sweat. Most likely you will with the lighting and all that, but it really is something that anybody can do. You're basically walking at like 2 miles an hour.
No, sorry. Also, you're limiting yourself to people who have access to a treadmill, that they could be doing this with you.
Wait, let's take a step back. We have to introduce our guest.
Yeah, so I was about to do that. So I saw this title, which I really liked. I don't know if it's one you go by, but it said Fitness Savant, which I thought was an interesting way to describe you.
Oh, I never saw that title. Where did you see that?
I watched a bunch of your interviews, and that was how the lower third is what it said. It said Fitness Savant. Also author of several books, 2 in a row that were in the top 10. She was ranked as one of the 100 most influential people in health and fitness. It is Jennifer Cohen. Thank you so much. And also her wellness brand, NGR, No Gym Required. And we just talked about your podcast a little bit. We'll get into it more. Habit and Hustle. The thing that makes me laugh right away, because this has got to be very rare in the health and fitness space. Here we are, 3 Jews talking about health. I don't think that happens a lot.
That is kind of funny.
It's very weird. Marcus.
Well, the anti-Semitic people they always say that the Jews control the media.
That's true.
They would say that. So this is kind of par for the course, right?
Yeah. What's funny is that just not to take a dark turn on this quickly, but I was a guest on our show yesterday called Race Wars. It's a comedy podcast where they talk about race. It's hosted by a white girl and a black dude, and they just kind of talk about different perspectives of race and in like a lighthearted sense. And I do believe that anti-Semitism is very different than hate, like being against black people or other races, because you don't know if someone's Jewish. So it's more hidden. It's more underground. You don't talk about it openly because the person you're talking to, you're going to know if they're black. You could see it. That's all.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to go back to a more positive thinking right now. Okay, so we'll start with your, I guess, the upper level brand of you, which is NGR, No Gym Required. The whole concept being that you can do everything without the need of a gym. Mark is also a big advocate of this. That's your number one selling book was NGR, Releasing a Rockstar, that came out, I think, now 10 years ago. But
that was a long time. That's a lot. You have an old bio, by the way.
I looked off your website too, though. I'm sorry, it was right on.
Which website was it? The No Gym Required website or the
Jennifer Cohen website?
Oh, well then I don't know what's going on. I should fix it. Yeah, but you're right though. That is true. That's but I had another book called Strong as the New Skinny right after.
Right. And then Badness Body Goals.
And then there's Badass Body Goals. Right.
So it is all updated. It's just where I started. Because isn't your company called No Gym Required, or am I wrong there?
Oh, no. I had a company. I sold, well, basically what happened was I had a shoe company called NGR, which was basically I created a toning shoe that had an interchangeable weighted midsole. Mm-hmm. And what I did was when I got my first book deal, I called it, my book was No Gym Required, like you were right. And then I had the shoe and I tried to create a tight brand around it. Before it was popular. Like this is back when, like you said, like 10 years ago when like no one was really like doing No Gym Required. Now it's everywhere,
for
right?
For the most part. Now there's no choice. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's very true. And then I sold the shoe company and, kind of what happened was that is my philosophy. No Gym Required is my philosophy because it's really about giving people it's easy, simple, ways to be healthy and be fit without using the gym. And that's really my motto in life to give people, they shouldn't rely on the gym. Not to say a gym is bad, but you should be able to teach a person to fish versus fish for them type of thing. Right.
Right.
So that's basically my entire philosophy, and it bled through everything I've done since then, with other books and other projects and everything.
But one thing you say that Marcus and you are on the same page with, you believe a lot in just, even if you get a 5-minute workout in, it's all cumulative. It's all going to benefit you more and more. And before you came on, Marcus and I were talking about how I started running, and in the beginning, now I'm up to running, I'd say 8 miles every time I run. But when I started, it was
amazing.
It was a 1-minute run when I started, just because I would get exhausted. And over the course of this quarantine world that we live in, I do three runs a week in 6 to 8 mile ranges. But it's a different kind of cumulative. Yours is, which I guess is equally true, even if you just do, because there is proof in that with it's better to do 3 10-minute workouts than it is to do 1 30-minute workout.
Absolutely.
Right?
I believe in that, because the reality is if you are exercising and then you're sitting for the rest of 20, if you even do 30, whatever you're doing and you're sitting for 23 hours, being sedentary for the rest of the day, 23 hours, then it's much more efficient. It's more effective for you to get your blood circulating more often. So I'd rather someone do even 5-minute, increments, 10-minute increments more often to move around more. It's just, I don't think it's not healthy. Research has shown that you try not to be sedentary as much as possible. Try to move, be active. And it's not about it's not really and I'm sure maybe Marcus would agree with this. It's not about being an athlete or having always being so intense with these workouts. It really is it's for everybody. It's just to be moving more, to get into the habit, building habits. And that's why when you say to someone who's not typically used to or interested in exercising, and you tell them to work out for an hour or 45 minutes, it's daunting, right? It's very overwhelming. But if you say, little baby steps adds to big, it adds to really successful habits over time. And if you tell someone 5 minutes, 2 minutes, it's much more palpable. They'll like, oh, I can do that. I can do 5 minutes. I can do 3 minutes. And more often than not, that 5 minutes would lead to 10 minutes or 20 minutes. It's really it's always about this. The stop is always in the start, right? People don't want to start. They stare at their shoes for 45 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they don't want to, even the beginning is so daunting when you could have just like put on those shoes and been finished your workout. So you want to it's all like psychological really, right? You want to kind of give it to someone in a way that they can actually digest it and then execute on it.
I've had this discussion on the show for the last few months with different people where I just also believe that people are wired differently. And people like you, Marcus, that are in great shape, that feel itchy if you sit in one place for too long. You want to get up and move. A lot of people, unfortunately, find comfort in that sitting on the couch and binge watching Netflix brings a happy, warm feeling in their heart. And that isn't how you guys are wired. And that's the problem. I think that's the disconnect, that the difference between people that are in great shape and people that are not is that they're wired differently. And I just hope that maybe that 10-minute thing or 5 minutes can help rewire those brain cells. I don't know.
Do you know what I think? I think that maybe, Marcus and myself and other people, maybe innately we're much more apt or prone to be that way. However, I think anything is about practice and consistency. You can change your behaviors, the neuroplasticity, by just doing different behaviors over and over and over again, and that can make you be that way, be more like me and Marcus. But I think once you start something and you become consistent, it becomes part of your routine, it becomes part of your day-to-day life, they'll get itchy too. But what happens is you have to allow yourself that period of time for it to become habitual, for it to become something so routine for you that you miss it or you crave it when it's not there. Because it's not so much, for me anyway now, it's not so much about the physical, right? It's really about the mental. Like when I sweat, right, it basically really helps my endorphins release, my serotonin, where it clears my mind, and it actually gives me more energy. But people don't get to that point of even knowing if they don't even start. So that's why it's about changing people's behavior long-term over time by giving them these simple, small things like these 5-minute workouts, 2-minute workouts, where the motivation, the idea behind it is eventually they'll get to be like a Marcus or myself, where it becomes something where you need to do it in order to feel good. Right, yeah.
Marcus?
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think that, I was making notes while you were talking. The first one is that my dad went to a weight loss program in North Carolina some 10, 15 years ago. I can't even remember what it was. And they had it set up where what they were doing was they were doing 2 45-minute workouts per day. And they had done an extensive study that showed that people lost weight when they broke up their workout into 2 increments throughout the day. Mm-hmm. Like they were keeping a furnace going. So I'm not going to get overly technical because I don't really have
furnace. I can't follow that.
What's that?
Nothing. Continue.
I don't have all the chemical knowledge of what's exactly going on. And I don't think it's necessary, because what I've also learned is that, people are very different. There's 2 kinds of people that I've met in this world. There's the kind of person that you can see their behavior when they're young. Like my wife's son, he's 5 years old. When he gets out of bed, he's already got his feet far ahead of his mind where he's at. He's already bored. He needs to be moving. He needs to get going. He needs excitement. He needs stimulation. I was like that. My sister is not like that. You're like that. I really just see that there's certain people who just need movement to feel balance. And so I guess our industry is, for me anyway, it's not trying to make people who aren't like that more like me. It's more of giving them little cheats that they can digest to do the thing that's really healthy for them. And so, we were talking about No Gym Required. I think that's a great brand name. It's certainly how I feel about life. I know that once I get into my routines at the house, I don't even remember how to go back to a gym and start, moving weights around and waiting for the machine, watching that weirdo who's jumping rope with high heels on.
Marcus, if you're moving weights around like this, you're doing something wrong, just so you know.
Where the studios and the gyms are beneficial is if you're studying something like martial arts, you're in a boxing gym, you're learning yoga, Pilates. Obviously, even those things for the average person, you don't even need a gym. I mean, especially nowadays when you have, the technology that we have, you can do everything from home. But I think it's really important that a person learn both ways. They should learn how to go to a gym, because in a gym setting, I like the idea that there's competition. I like the fact that you look in the mirror, and I'm not going to go into it now. This is your time, but I really like the idea of companionship. I don't think that we're meant to do everything alone. Sometimes going to the gym, what gets a lot of people there is that it's a social event. Mm-hmm. Some people go to the gym when they're not in the mood because they think they're going to get laid.
I mean, my brother's main reason for going to the gym is to be around pretty girls.
Okay, you know what? Listen, for some people, without judging, that might be really shallow, but that's where that person is at.
Yeah, and if it gets you there, it gets you there. But it's funny.
Someone has to help that person transform, because that motivation is not sustainable. Especially, let's say you got laid and then you got married. Now you're getting laid at home. You don't have to do anything. What's going to happen? Your motivation goes out the window. So obviously, when we're young, use whatever motivation you can get. And then you want to progress and make your motivation more conscious.
Let me ask you this, Jen. I'm sorry, Jennifer. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the gym is a lot of the time, is the social element. A big part of it is the social element. It's not necessarily for the workout. To be honest with you, a lot of times when I go to the gym, I spend most of my time chit-chatting with people. I spend 2 hours there, and it's a waste of time because I'm talking to people, I'm doing this. And then my workouts are shorter. They're not as intense. They're not as good. It's way more efficient, actually, to work out of the gym. But people are not built to be isolated.
But are you enjoying your conversations that you have with people?
Am I enjoying my conversations? Sometimes. No. I mean,
well, if they make you happy, then there's definitely a very positive benefit to them. And I think that
society, feeling like you have a connection in the outside world these days, I think it's missed.
Yeah, but I'm saying, of course, but that's why I go to the gym. But there's different reasons, right? People are going there a lot of times for that social element, which is not a bad thing, right? It's better to be going to the gym sometimes than going to some, nightclub or bar. You meet people who at least are like-minded, who you could relate to or have things in common with, find workout buddies. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons why people, like to go to the gym, right? But it's not necessarily because you get the best workouts and it's the most efficient.
Right. There's one thing that Marcus, you said that's funny. It's as I am not a very competitive person at all. I always kind of find if I used to play racquetball for my college when I was a kid. And when games are really intense, I just thought it was funny because I don't really, it's just a game. Who gives a shit? But when I'm running and if somebody barrels past me, it motivates me to go faster. That's something that even someone who's not competitive feels that. So there is something to that.
I'm using the word competitive very loosely because it's something else. We are parrots. That's our nature. We learn by watching either animals or watching other people. When I say competitive, it's not necessarily that you see a guy bench pressing and you're going to go, he's doing 300, I'm going to do 310. That's something, I guess. I don't really think of it like that. What I think about is if you could be gentle and non-shaming to yourself and you go to an environment where everyone's fit, and I don't care what movement they're doing. I mean, when I used to go to Equinox in Williamsburg, it was so different than what I had conditioned myself. I went from Thai boxing gyms, which were gritty and, people are like punching each other in the face. I did for a lot of years. And then yoga studios where people are bending themselves up into pretzels. And now I go to the gym and I just see people standing in front of the mirror and making, a big performance about lifting something heavy. And I stopped judging it. I said, you know what? We're motivating each other. We're positive influence on each other. All of this movement is good. Some of it's better than others. If a person who's overweight or a person who's very sedentary and is getting into the lifestyle, it could be very intimidating, or they can go there with a different attitude and say, I'm going here just so that some of this can rub off on me in a positive way. It's really all in your mind.
By the way, it'd be cool if you mistake the two one day and you went to the yoga studio and you just started punching everyone in the face. That would have been cool.
I think I've done that before.
I want to ask you something, because you have this principle, and again, I hope I'm not dating myself, as I did watch your TEDx talk, and then I watched this thing where you're talking about how do something 10 times to get successful. Am I dating you?
Oh, no, you're good. I did that talk, I think like 2 or 3 months before the pandemic. So like 7 months.
Not too dating. Okay, good.
No, you're good. You're good.
One of the things that I don't want to be, I'm not saying I'm being combative, but it was an interesting story. You talked this whole story about how you got Keanu Reeves to be on your demo tape to go for, I guess it was Much Music at the time, because you're
yeah, exactly. It's like I'm Canadian, so that Much Music is the equivalent of like MTV for you guys.
Much Music became Fuse in America too, because the reason why I tell you, I was a VJ for VH1 Classic for a while. So
you were?
Yeah. So I knew.
Oh, nice.
So
you had my dream job when I was a kid.
Yeah. I almost was on MTV when I was a kid, and then later on in life, I did VH1 Classic for a couple of years.
Oh, nice. I'm jealous now. That's like that was like my dream, right?
What are you talking? This is the thing that I've had this discussion before, and I'm not. I hope in this modern age, sometimes it's hard to choose the right words, and I don't want to be shamed by social justice or whatever, but you are obviously a very pretty woman, right? So I imagine that was still the case when you were a teenager. You didn't one day wake up and be pretty. You were probably pretty then too. That's what I'm guessing, right?
That's very nice. So, I don't know. I mean, that's very
yes or no.
Subjective.
Is the word pretty an acceptable word in 2020?
I don't know. I
think you have to say. I think you have to say you're a very attractive person.
No, I'm flattered. Listen, you don't have to mind your P's and Q's with me. I'm glad that you, any way you want to put it, I'm flattered. So
well, if you were on his other show, Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll,
you wouldn't.
It would be a lot less polite.
But there's a reason for I'm saying this. So I'll tell you my quick anecdotal story to explain what I'm saying. I was dating this girl a few years ago who had just come here from another country, right? And she was in a very trendy nightclub and told me, hey, just come in and meet me. I'm in the nightclub. I said, I can't just go in. She said, no, you just walk in the front door. They'll let you in. I'm like, no, they'll let you in. You're fucking gorgeous. I'm a fucking old Jew. They're not going to let me in unless I'm spending money. You have to come out and get me. And she was unaware of the fact. She just thought, oh, you just walk into a club. That's how you do it, because she didn't know any other way, right?
Right.
In the same respect, I don't know if Keanu Reeves would have agreed to come on my audition tape if I went up to him as a schlub, hey, dude, come do my show. So sometimes you have to wonder that barrier to entry, what's actually helping break it down. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah,
what if she just had really intelligent content?
I listened to how she got it. It didn't get that far.
It wasn't that. Yeah, exactly. But let me say, I agree with you 1,000,000%. However, there's a big caveat to that. And the caveat to that is I'm going to send you what I looked like when I was 18 years old. And you're going to see how awkward and really like homely, I hate to say it, I was back then.
Okay, well, maybe
when you say homely, what does that really define? It's such a vague
term. Can't even say that word these days. You say, it's just so.
I know. I mean, now listen, I'm not being so PC myself right now, but like, I would say that I grew, maybe I grew into myself as I got older. I did, or I would say that that was like an awkward phase of mine. I was awkward
I would love
looking.
to see that picture because that would
What
help.
is but wait, I want to go back. What
I'm
is
going to
when you
show
say
it to you.
homely? What does homely mean?
It means unattractive.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I would say this. I would say it was a different time back then, right? It was like, 20 years ago. So, styles change and looks change, what's considered fashionable or on point with how you style yourself or whatever. But I would say, because you said that, I am going to show it to you and you'll be like, oh, wow.
Fine. I would like to see that. I would like to see that because also I do feel that though very often people don't realize things that get offered to them because they are either good looking or in the right place at the right time, or there's other factors very often that lead into success. I've had friends that became superstars that just because they went to the right party at the right time and met somebody. But yes, I agree with the idea that you need to keep trying, but the math is a little off. That you try something 10 times to become successful. The basic statistics don't work that way, but I still get the idea.
Well, my point was more this. My point was that most of the time, this is 2 points for me. That number one is about being resilient, right? Getting comfortable with failing was really mostly the point, because the idea was that most people don't even make one attempt, and let alone 2 attempts, right? Most people don't even, I had a podcast about this yesterday with a professor from Wharton, and all he does, his name is Ethan Malik, and all he does is study data on successful people, founders, startups, entrepreneurs. And the data actually shows that, that what I just said, the majority of people have an idea, they want to pursue something, and then they just don't have the
100%
ability.
True. I mean, no, everyone has ideas. It's about execution. I 100% agree with that.
It's about, but not only that, it's about execution over and over again. Yeah. Because a lot of times, if you even attempt once, you won't attempt. If you don't make it, you just give up because you don't have enough. You're scared. There's fear. It's fear-based self-doubt. So my point was to kind of give people get comfortable with the art of failing.
Right. I mean, I tell people that all the time. Embrace your shit. The negative stuff is what's going to make you stronger, not the things that fall in your lap easy. It doesn't do anything for your character.
Absolutely. And then to your point, Ralph, I want to say one more thing. If it was all looks, right? I've not gotten 9 out of 10 things I've tried for.
No, I'm not saying it's all looks. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying.
But you're right. You're right. It's much easier to get through the door if you have a cute face for sure and a good body.
You have to have a shtick. My friend Dominic wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a good-looking guy, and he always was with a beautiful woman, and he was a great, hilarious comedian. Everyone has to have a shtick. It could be a pretty face. It could be something that's going on that's attractive to people, and of course, if you were trying to get an audience with the Dalai Lama and you're a beautiful woman, he might not care about that at all. So it's really also who you're
a real player, though.
What's that?
I heard the Dalai Lama is a real player.
That's good. He's doing that in the last quarter of his life. He's decided to start nightclubbing. It's really interesting.
No, but actually, I will say, I think that it does help when you're attracted with the Dalai Lama, but that's a side note.
Really?
But, yeah.
Oh, man.
So, tell me a little bit. Look, besides this show, I'm in the podcast game in general. I have a network that gets about 5 million listeners a week. I just was curious, how long have you been doing the podcast, and what was the motivation to start it?
What network is that? Good for you. I'm very happy to hear that
it's
for
called
you.
Gas Digital. We're mostly East Coast based, and we do a little bit, mainly comedy and stuff like that. But so I know you're on. Last I saw, you were on the Entrepreneur Network, correct?
Yeah, I am. But I mean, and also today we launched on a new platform. It's called BYLR Radio, and we launched the app just became available today. I mean, this became available an hour ago, actually. But yes, I am. My network is with Entrepreneur, and the podcast is called Habits and Hustle, and it's really me talking to thought leaders, experts, extraordinary people who've achieved extraordinary things about their habits, their rituals, what they thought is what made them kind of get to that level of success. but then also about ways people listening can then apply certain things to themselves. So there's a practical element. Like I don't want, when people just talk in big grandiose ways, it's not really applicable to somebody. It's not really beneficial. But if you can, glean some information that's practical that you can then apply to your life, it helps level up your life. So that's what we really talk about. And we have everyone from neuroscientists on to world-class athletes to, extraordinary entrepreneurs who've done extraordinary things.
You should bring Marcus on. He's an extraordinary man.
Right. I saw what Marcus, you created Juice Press or Press Juicery? What Juice Press?
Juice Press in New York.
How many locations do you have there?
Well, I exited about a year ago. We were at 85 locations.
Wow, just in New York?
Well, we had Boston. We had 6 locations in Boston. We had a couple in Connecticut. We had one in Vegas, one in Seattle, Washington, a couple in Jersey. But most of the locations were Manhattan-based, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I think I've actually had one of your green juices. That was delicious.
Thanks a lot. I'm putting everything behind me, and I'm redefining extraordinary for 2021. Extraordinary for me is being a good father, being a good husband, taking care of my fitness, developing my mind, working through childhood issues, unfreezing stuck emotions, stuff that's really ordinary and very boring. I mean, the first half of my life, I was trying to figure out how I could be more like the first guy to jump off of a gondola 120,000 feet above Earth, because that sounds really extraordinary to a young lunatic like myself. But, I don't want to die.
No, you're too old now. You're going to die. Let me ask you this, Jennifer, because you've been in this game for a very long time. That book that I said is about, I think it's 11 years ago, your first book. And so
that one was a long time ago. Yeah.
And I even saw a video, in searching you out, I saw you as a spokesperson for Shake Weight, which is hilarious. It was great to see you doing that right now.
Yeah. You know what? That actually, I wasn't a spokesperson for them. I was doing I was on the Today Show. I used to be on the Today Show as a fitness person, like a fitness expert to come on, and I was doing an episode or a segment about the wackiest fitness equipment that people actually think works. Right. And I was talking about.
I don't mind that Shake Weight. I don't mind. What I would do is I would just get 2 1-gallon plastic containers and fill them up halfway. I would just save the money. That's got to have some. There's got to be some. I mean, it's just movement, but there's got to be something positive if you're really concentrating on your core. It just looks too much. I remember on TV, it looks too much like a dude is masturbating. That's why I never bought those. Rob, would you concur?
It was a prerequisite. I would give one to every girl I was dating, which is probably not the right thing to do.
Yeah, probably not. I have a question for you guys for a minute. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yes.
What's the relationship? Is this, Ralph, is this your podcast in conjunction?
We're lovers.
No. Are you guys both the hosts? Okay, I just walked on this and you guys are both talking here. So.
Oh, well, if I may, Ralph and I knew each other before we were born. Our fathers and mothers were friends from the same community.
Oh,
and
nice.
We kind of grew up together, so we know each other a long time. And when I was exiting Juice Press, I was already starting on another project, which is going to be similar to Juice Press. And I wanted to put together a podcast. I came to visit his studio. I was really blown away by what he was doing. And we sat down at one of the tables and we started our usual banter. And we said, you know what, we should turn this on. And, the mics. And a couple of people were listening to our show and our usual banter with each other, how we make fun of each other and stuff like that. It was fun. And he had a name for, if we were to do a show, we were going to call it the Sherpa and the Schmuck. Which one is the Sherpa? Which one is the Schmuck? And, we at the time, really, when we first started the show, it was really just I was playing pseudo therapist to him because he had said on early shows that, he's accomplished a lot, but he really probably, if he had to rate it, was only 50% happy. So we just started the premise of the show we've been doing for about a year and a half, Ralph?
About it, yeah. But we took that break because we were dealing with that network.
All right. So, yeah, we started about a year ago, just really not being organized, just it was so easy because I'd come to his studio, we would sit down for an hour, and we would just rattle, and I would give him assignments, and he would do things, and we'd make fun of fitness movements and things like that. So now we're really building momentum
apart and stuff. We took a lot of big, looking at people that were motivational speakers or people that were supposedly.
We got to do more of that. That's
field, and I would kind of rip them apart, like why I hated Satguru or why I hated various people and things. But then recently,
you should do a podcast about that. Actually,
we did a whole thing where we.
I'm writing a book slowly right now. I have an editor working on it. It's called How to Make Fun of Gurus. And if it's it's a segue, it leads into a lot of ways of thinking about, health and wellness. But certainly that's Ralph is really a good researcher. So I'll give him an assignment hey.
Is he though? Just kidding.
Yeah, what's funny, by the way, Jennifer, I said this right when I logged on to my producer, Brian, that today it sucked because I normally would put in 4 to 5 hours of research on somebody to feel really confident. And I did not get to do that with you today due to other personal issues there's no reason to get into, but so I felt like I was under prepared for the show today.
Well, do you want to, I appreciate the honesty, first of all, but then why, that's not fair. Why do I get the the scraps when you would normally put so much time in? Why would you put less time into me? What could have happened?
It wasn't about you at all. It wasn't nothing about.
I know. What was something must have really happened in your life. A personal
thing happened yesterday that I just was dealing with that took up more hours than I would have liked it to.
Right.
I didn't have the time to do this today. That's basically what happened. So, but I did what I could, and so I was a little underprepared today. And I normally would feel very confident in any interview I've done. I was in radio for 20 years. I started a radio show that was on 100 stations for most of my adult life, interviewing rock stars, and through that is how I got a VH1 Classic. But so I always am super confident with doing that. But today was a day that I got, it's all on me here. God forbid,
you're slipping, Ralph. You're slipping up.
Marcus Googled something once in his life.
With Juice Press, I got a tremendous amount of very organic press and media, and I would constantly be told last minute that you're doing this, you're going to go talk to that, you're going to do this. The less I prepare for a show, the more relaxed I am. And
but you're on a different side. I'm talking about when you're interviewing someone versus being interviewed are two very different things.
Well, it's kind of the same thing for me. I feel like it's conversational for me. I'm not I'm not a professional interviewer yet. You carry the show in that way very well, and I definitely can learn from that.
I want to ask you the question I wanted to ask you because we do not have a lot of time either. But the question I want to ask you the most, because as I said, you've been in this game for a while, and I like hearing this from people that have been focused on one thing for a very long time. If you were talk to Jennifer of the original book that you wrote, No Gym Required, to now, what do you think are some of the biggest differences in how you approach fitness now versus then?
That's a good question, actually. See, Ralph? Yeah.
That was very, very good. You are good.
You just redeemed yourself with that question.
Thank you very much. Believe me, if I had another 2 hours, I'd have 3.
You were in the shit house before. You were one of the worst interviewers she's ever encountered.
Yeah. No, I think that was a really good save.
Writing a letter to her publicist saying, "Who the fuck are these douchebags?"
Yeah, no. Listen, I don't have a publicist, but if I did, that's exactly what I would do. So this is what I would say. That's a very good question. I think experience. It's really funny. I was looking at that book just for nostalgia purposes, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And the funny thing, hold on a second. I pressed something. I don't know. Oh, sorry.
You're still on. Nothing happened.
Oh, I can't see you though. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I don't know what I did.
Play some elevator music while there's a little intermission.
I don't know what happened. Can you guys get me back on?
No, well, it has to come on your side. We see you. So you must have closed the window.
No, I did. Oh, I think I just maybe tapped something. Oh, that's good. Perfect.
Because we
see me now?
We see you.
Perfect. I was going to say that I was thinking to myself, not to pat myself on the back, but I was going to say that book I felt was kind of I wrote it too early, because if it came out now, I feel that it would have done even better, because I think at the time, like things I would put in that book are things I actually to this day still live by. I talk about shopping the perimeter of a shop of a grocery store, you know, only eating things that no processed food, eating only things that, you know, have only, you know, very, very limited ingredients, exercising, using your own body weight, things like that, where that's actually really what I do believe in. Now, I will say this, like, I think that a lot of what happens now, just like, it's like kind of like information overload, where you're so overloaded with so many different workouts and fads and gimmicks that you get so confused, and you go on so many different paths, and like then you end up like either doing nothing or just kind of doing something and stopping and starting again. Where I find that like back then, if people just kind of just use their own body weight, ate clean, there's no magic formula and there's no magic pill, right? So with that being said, I don't think my philosophy has changed even a little bit. It literally is exactly the same. But I think with my career, it's evolved because the fitness portion turned into a lot of, it went from fitness to me creating these companies. I had a fitness app called Hot 5 based on 5-minute workouts that was then acquired by Weight Watchers a few years ago. I don't know if you know that, Ralph, because you didn't do any research, but and so I went more from being a fitness trainer over time to being more of an entrepreneur on the business side of things, and becoming then like getting hired more by companies to work on strategy and marketing and how to kind of really create a brand and then execute on it and then to get awareness on it, which took me to a path of more leadership. And that's, you know, that's kind of where my trajectory, that's what kind of evolved for my career. So now I'm not so much fitness, but what I really focus on are things about behavioral change, right? How to be a good leader, how to, you know, strategy, how to create a good brand. I'm more become like an entrepreneur within the fitness and wellness space versus being a fitness professional where I'm doing fitness videos, if that makes any sense.
Fitness savant, if you want to go full circle.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. I got to look at that, but you know.
I'll send you the link. And also I noticed, because when you're talking about the diets on your Instagram at The Real Jen Cohen, you had a list of like 20 diets or maybe 10 diets and what they do, but really all of them are about calorie depletion. Like every one of them works for the same reason.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't like to that. My whole, again, that's why No Gym Required was something that I still believe in, is because I don't want to overcomplicate things. You know, I think the more complicated it becomes, the less people actually end up doing it. You want to keep it simple, stupid, right? Because I mean, I can go into macros and micros and, you know, what are macros and, you know, eating a dense calorie versus, but really, like, if you want to just break it down simply for people, it's really is move more, eat a little less. And, you know, yeah, I don't believe in eating foods that are processed. I think that's where you really derail yourself. So keep it simple.
I'm a big advocate of that too. I've had the idea for a long time to write a guaranteed weight loss guidebook, and it's going to be like 700 pages and big, but the first page says eat less, the second page says work out more, and the rest of it just blank for notes.
That's amazing. You should for sure do that.
My thought process in what you're talking is absolutely, I'm very proud to have met you, and to, you know, I think you're doing a great job. We're on the same team and I really appreciate it. And I would say that
I think he's proud to meet one of us, by the way, based on the way that
here's how I look at it. Okay. The people that are the most successful in the world, they have a sense and they have a feeling of what other people want, and then they know how to give it to them. That success is sometimes measured in how many people they reach or how much money they make. But it's not the only measurement of success, because you have to learn from somebody. So the person who's teaching you, he or she is not teaching you basics. He's teaching you expert stuff. So that stuff may be more complicated and may be more involved. So I think that each person who's a teacher or a coach or someone who's trying to help someone, you have to prescribe the medication, so to speak, for the person who's in front of you. What do they need? Do they need very basic treatment? Like my dad, for example, I'm sure at 77 years old, would probably be motivated by someone who says, you only have to do 10 minutes of walking a day, and I'm going to go with you. I'm going to hold your hand. And he could talk about how much he hates Donald Trump for 10 minutes. That would be his motivation. Whereas what you might need is to spend an hour here and there talking to one of my food mentors, this guy, Fred Bishi, who's 91 years old, so that he can unlock in depth more of the reasons why the things that you do that work, maybe giving you more technical information, a platform to build upon. So I don't think there's any reason why we should ever limit ourselves or put the taboo on advanced practices. I think that we should always keep an open mind and recognize that what's basic for you is complex for someone else. What's really complex for someone else is extremely basic for you, etc.
I have one question before.
That's true.
I have one quick question. Marcus, why are you doing the flash dance shoulder on one arm and the other arm is down?
Because
He wants to show off his tattoos too.
No, not at all. I'm sitting in a corner in this room downstairs, and the window's open because I want to have good light, unlike you, Ralph. And it's about 9,000 degrees coming from this window, and I'm roasting, and my reflex was to just like lift up my sleeve and cool off. And also, I didn't want to have a farmer's tan on that arm.
I wanted to get up and dance like in the flash dance movie. I just pour water on myself.
You're funny, Ralph.
Thank you so much.
He's actually not that funny. That's the funny part about it. Not that funny. Not that funny.
Your
more tragic than anything else.
Is Jennifer Cohen. Your Instagram is the real Jen Cohen. I obviously missed some things. So is there anything else you want to plug before we wrap up this episode of Good Sugar?
You know what? The only thing I want to plug are I want people to listen to my podcast, Habits and Hustle. And they can follow me at The Real Jen Cohen, like you said. And you know what? I don't really have anything beyond those.
Give a shout out to the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, exactly.
That player. Yeah.
Would you come back on our show in a couple of months?
Absolutely.
We'll get our shit together. You know, we're fledgling guys. We're gonna really get this hustle.
If you promise to do a little bit more background research on me, both of you, then I'll be here for sure.
Ralph will do it. I'll just look you straight in the eyes. I think counter position of your lifestyle paradigm. The next show that we're going to do, the challenge is for 40 minutes. We're all going to be 100% still and minimal blinking.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That'll be for the YouTube watchers.
Jennifer, hang out because I want to get your email because I want to see your picture of a young Jen Cohen talking to.
I'm going to show it to you. It's going to be humiliating.
This has been another.
Jen,
episode.
are you married and are you rich?
Yeah.
Answer the second question first. The third question is, do you want to marry Ralph? I'm already married.
If I do the adequate research.
If you knew exactly, if you even read my bio.
You're wearing a ring on the wedding finger. I was wondering, are you married?
I'm married and I have 2 kids.
That's amazing. And you pulled them out yourself?
I mean, myself? No, my doctor did.
Oh, you didn't grab them and pull them out?
I thought you were going to say
no, I'm not that. I'm not that woke yet, but you know.
Wow.
All right. So again, follow her.
Next show.
Jen Cohen, JenniferCohen.com. This has been another episode of GSP Good Sugar. Follow me.
It's another episode of Them Jews.
Follow me everywhere at I Am Ralph Sutton, the website for Good Sugar, goodsugar.life. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you
Lovely
for having
person.
me.
Thank you very much.